I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Stephanie Humphrey. Stephanie is a technology and lifestyle expert who has turned her knowledge of technology into useful tips and trends and information that can help everybody. In this episode, we decided that she puts the tech knowledge in technology. I love that. In this episode, we talk about where she was born and raised and where she grew up. We also talk about what got her into technology and how she became an expert. We talk about all the different television stations and online platforms that she is the tech expert for and contributes technology-based information to. And then we talk about her book, which is called Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt, which helps teenagers, kids, and adults like myself understand how to use all of these social media platforms and how not to use them. I tell a fairly embarrassing story about how I got suspended from Twitter a few weeks back and why, and that was completely my fault because I'm a dumbo. We also talk about her 60-second tech break, and if you're curious about what that is, tune in. And lastly, we talk about her wonderful website called Till Death Do You Tweet, which encompasses most of the things that I just told you about. You can find her book, Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt, on Amazon and on her website, tilldeathdoyoutweet.com. This was recorded during all the self-distancing due to the coronavirus outbreak. So if that is over by now, woohoo. If not, damn it. But either way, this is my conversation with technology and lifestyle expert Stephanie Humphrey.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Stephanie Humphrey. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I cannot complain. Just real quick at the top, I just want to shout out to our mutual friend, Joe Lafferty, for hooking us up. I'm very excited to get to know you and to have all of my streetwalkers get to know you. So let's do this.
Let's do it.
Stephanie, I like to start out with where people were born and raised. It kind of gives us an idea of how they got to where they are. So if you don't mind, where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a tiny little borough called Rankin, Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh. So I just tell people I'm from Pittsburgh because that's what they would know. But very specifically, it was Rankin, PA. Gotcha.
And is your family from there for generations, or did they move there just for you? Or
Well, pretty much they've been there for a while. Yeah, both sides of my family have been in that general area for a while. There's a few little boroughs that kind of all connect. So both sides of my family have been there for at least, I'd say, 2 to 3 generations, maybe.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually wanted to design video games. That was the thing, design video games or come up with the most innovative microprocessor that would revolutionize how we use computers. In my, third grade year old mind, I would say I wanted to build computers. But as I got into education and training, I understood that meant designing microprocessors. So 1 or 2 or both of those things, building computers or designing video games.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, streetwalkers, if you will, that should give you sort of an idea of how young this lady is, because when I was in 3rd grade, a computer was an abacus. So we never talk about age on this show, but that's a hint, folks. She's real young. So you decided, I guess, eventually, because that's not what you're doing now, you decided to do something else. But before we get there, you decided to go to college. Why?
Mm-hmm. Because it was expected. And also I wanted to get out of Rankin, PA. That was another thing. It was expected because I was a very good student. I was, an A student and everything you think of when you think of a quote unquote good student. So it was expected that I would just continue my education. But I also wanted to go to college and have that experience and get a better life and everything that they tell you comes with a college degree. So I wanted to go. I definitely wanted to go.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it was expected, because a lot of families, that's not expected. It certainly was not expected in my family growing up. More than not expected, it was more expected that I wouldn't go to college. So I'm really glad that was expected in your family. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have an older brother and a younger half sister.
They went to college too, I'm assuming?
My brother did not. He went into the military and ended up going to college well after he got out of the military and was, had a family and everything like that. And then he went back to art school, actually. He's the creative in the family. I would say I'm the more left-brained sibling, and he's the right-brain creative. So it was his goal always into art school, and he did eventually do that. And then my sister did go to college because I did. It was funny. I never expected that I would be a role model because she and I didn't actually grow up in the same household, but she was watching everything I did. And she'll tell you to this day, she went to college because I did.
That's really cool. But you didn't go to a college. You went to 2 colleges.
Yeah.
Why did you go to 2 colleges? One's not enough, you overachiever?
Well, there's that. There is that. And my company was paying for it. I went to graduate school once I started working through a program that my company sponsored. So they paid for it. It was right there, and it was free. So it was just like, why not? I don't know. I can't tell you how much value I actually got out of that experience beyond just sticking with something till the end. But yeah, it was there and it was free.
Well, that is amazing. I would say lucky you, but it sounds like you worked your butt off to deserve that. So well done. A little bit. Well done. At some point, you got into the business world, right?
Yes, I did work for corporate America for a little while.
What made you get into business world? Is that the people who paid for college?
Yes, it was just the natural progression after, you graduate from undergrad, you get the quote unquote good job and start living your life, really. It was just the natural progression of things.
That makes sense. We're going to fast forward a little bit because you're not known for being in the corporate world per se. You're known for being a tech guru. How did that happen? How did you... I know that it started young because you wanted to build microprocessors in 3rd grade or whatever, but how did you get on the super tech path? Forgive me for saying this. Everybody can't see you, but I can, and you don't look like a tech nerd. So how did it happen? I bet you do. How did it happen that you became a tech nerd?
Well, that was the thing. I was always good in math and science. My degrees are actually in engineering, so I'm an engineer. I wouldn't necessarily say I became a tech guru. I think I was born a tech person, maybe not a guru at birth, but I definitely was born with that desire to understand how things work. And if you ask me what an engineer is, I would tell you they're a person that wants to understand how things work and have been trained to think through in a very specific and logical fashion how to get things to work, how to make things work, understand how things work. I've always wanted to do that, and I've always done that from a very young age, and then got the engineering degrees, worked as an engineer for a number of years. But yeah, I actually kind of abandoned all of it for a short time while I pursued the media and entertainment industry. Came back to my roots, if you will, in 2012. After I had done all of those things in the media space, decided to combine that with the fact that, I am an engineer and help people understand technology on TV.
How did you make the way to TV? I'm assuming that engineering is not too much in front of the camera.
No.
So how did you go from engineering in some hidey hole in an office somewhere to standing in front of the camera talking about all the cool technology stuff?
It definitely was not a straight line. When I left my job, I thought that I wanted to be an actor, a model, a host, a spokesperson, a whatever kind of in the entertainment. I didn't have a ton of knowledge of the entertainment industry beyond the type of things that I watched on TV, which was mostly entertainment reporting, red carpet, who are you wearing? That kind of thing. I was very into celebrity at that time and gossip and that whole thing. So I thought that's what I might want to do. And that's actually what I was pursuing for a while. I had done a couple of red carpets actually, and realized very early on that acting really wasn't for me, but hosting could be, like just being able to talk basically and run my mouth and showcase my personality on camera came very naturally for me. So that was sort of the area of the entertainment industry that I honed in on. And so I was working kind of, scratching away out of the business like everybody else in it, and had a meeting with a mentor, a fateful meeting with a mentor of mine who I had gone in to try to convince to give me one job. And he kind of set me on the path that I find myself on now, because he just said, what are you doing? What are you doing in here? What are you doing with all of this? And why aren't you using what you already have? Which was my education and background and training. And it really, truly, I don't use the phrase light bulb moment much, just because I think it's overused, but it really was that light bulb moment where I was just like, wow, what have I been doing this whole time? But I started blogging, real simple. Like, everybody else at the time had a blog. So I started a blog, just so people could see that I could write, and use the blog to reach out to higher profile digital platforms, print platforms, offering myself up as a tech writer. What I found when I decided to make that switch, I had done all these different things in the media industry. I actually reported traffic for a while and, did some other stuff. And I thought that the fact that I had all of this newfound media experience, but oh, by the way, I got 2 engineering degrees. I thought, folks would kind of beat a path to my door to have me on their show as a tech expert. And that actually wasn't the case. Nobody really cared much about that. So I figured if I could position myself as a tech writer for an outlet, because those were the folks that I was seeing on television being invited in as the subject matter experts. It's usually the writer for The Atlantic or the writer for such and such. And in the tech space at the time specifically, most of the people on TV, the experts, quote unquote, were, the writer for Wired or the writer for Gizmodo or the writer for, some other high profile tech blog. So that's what I set out to do. I set out to become the writer for somebody. And I was the writer for theroot.com, and I was the writer for Ebony Magazine and Black Enterprise and a few other publications, and was able to pitch myself to a local outlet. I live right outside of Philadelphia right now. So Philadelphia was my first market, and was able to pitch myself for the local morning news here in Philadelphia. Just built it on that, and eventually made my way to the big stage.
Well, let's talk about that big stage. You have been a technology contributor for just about everybody that anybody's ever heard of. From ABC News to ebony.com, like you said, to your local Good Day Philadelphia affiliate. How is that going for you? I mean, please take this with all due respect. You're a woman, and typically technology is, I guess, explained or delivered by a man. Mm-hmm. Was it hard at first to get people to take you seriously, to get people to understand your credibility?
Yes and no. It's funny. Once I sort of decided that was the route I was going to take, it's always tough just getting people to believe you. And I have to think part of that is just the nature of this business. But it also wasn't that difficult, because I was able to come into contact with a few different people that recognized my ability early on and really made it easier for me to find a place. And I mean, and like you said, your listeners can't see me, and I'm also a Black woman. So that would have made it doubly difficult, because there are no other me's in the space where I work. And so I think that was the more difficult part of it, trying to envision myself in a space where I didn't exist. That was sort of my own mental, psychological work that I had to do. But initially, it was actually, I'm not going to say easy, but it was easier than I expected it to be, because I was able to connect with some folks that were able to help me, specifically in Philadelphia. The first time I got on air in Philly, it was because a mutual friend who just happened to be the anchor on the show that I was on gave me a shot.
At the top of that, you mentioned that you are a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And you also said that there's not another you in the tech world. In your specific industry, there's not another Black woman. Right.
Well, you can look at morning shows across the board. And you can look at Ryan Seacrest, and you can look at George Stephanopoulos, and you can look at Willie Geist. Like, there are multiple white men that anchor morning news shows. There are multiple white women that anchor morning news shows. But when you say who has a national presence that goes on television and talks about tech, that's a Black woman. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe there's that one sister out there that's doing it. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of Black women in tech, number one. And there are a lot of Black women who help people understand technology through their blogs, through their YouTube channels, a lot of very popular YouTubers and influencers and different things like that. But when you say, where can I turn on a television and watch Good Morning America and see a Black woman talking about tech, I am the only Black woman that exists that is doing that currently. It just is, you know what I mean? I don't take it any kind of way. I don't feel any kind of way about it. This is just what I wanted to do. So I set out to do it. But it is tough not having that blueprint to follow. Now, there is a Black man. His name is Mario Armstrong. He does what I do for the Today Show.
Everybody knows Mario.
Yeah, exactly. So he kind of was my model, when I decided that, I wanted to sort of go for that national platform. I was like, oh, I want to do what Mario Armstrong does. And so I just set out to do it.
I was that same way, but it was Mario Lopez, and they didn't hire me for Saved by the Bell.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lake Distillery. We're glad to introduce to you our newest bottled and bond bourbons, the Lee W. Sinclair 4-grain bourbon and the Matty Gladden High Rye bourbon. As always, these two bourbons are deeply rooted in the history of our location in the Black Forest of southern Indiana. Always double pot distilled, never chill filtered, made using the finest grains, alternative and historic yeast strains that we propagate ourselves, and the methodology that once made southern Indiana an epicenter of American distilling. Matured gracefully in 53-gallon No. 2 char, new American oak barrels, using a low 105 entry proof. The Lee Sinclair presents an oak-forward profile, which pushes forward the definition and conversation about bourbon possibilities, while the Matty Gladden graces us and demonstrates respect with her 35% rye mash bill. It's not just the spirits in the bottle, it's the spirits of the place. Respect the grain and drink responsibly.
Let's get back into it.
One of the questions that I really, really like to ask when I'm talking to experts such as yourself and people that are successful in their fields is what make you think you could do whatever. And so in today's world, there's a lot of talk about people who don't look like me being represented in different areas. Not me, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a day and age where there was nobody and still is nobody who looks like you, who does what you do, what made you think you could do that?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have an answer that's not going to sound facetious, but I just never thought I couldn't do it. I had a mother who encouraged every single thing I did and never said, what? Why would you want to do that? You can't do that. What are you thinking? And so I just didn't grow up with that mindset that there was anything that I could not do. So I don't really have that. I just don't have that mindset. I don't really know how else to explain it, but by saying I just don't have that mindset that there is a thing out there that I can't do. And I don't know if it was just a function of being good in school and being always told, oh, you can do anything. You're so smart. That sort of reinforcement, my mother's support, friends. I don't know. I just have never had that mindset. I've never had a thought and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And maybe it's just arrogance, disguised as confidence. And also I am a person of faith as well. So with God, all things are possible. So that's a big part of it too.
Well, I think that you said you don't really have an answer for it, except that you never were brought up with the mindset that there was something you couldn't do. I think that goes along with the fact that college was just expected. It was just like it sort of goes without saying that you're going to go to college. And so I think that sort of mindset at home and in schools or wherever in your community, I think that it was never even a thought that you weren't going to go to college. So why would it be a thought that there was something that you couldn't do?
Right.
And from the people that are super successful in their field, like you are, that is a common thread, but that's not a common thread for everybody. And so as I do more and more of these, I'm starting to notice that the through line for all of this, besides almost unquestionable and unlimited support from family is this whole mindset of, being raised that there's nothing that you can't do. And a lot of people, myself included, were not sort of raised with that. So I think it's really important for people when they're in a family, whether they're a parent or a sibling or, even a kid in a family, I think it's important for us to all sort of gravitate more toward the sky's the limit kind of a thing.
Yes.
I think a long time ago, and I mean a really long time ago, if I understand my history correctly, that was sort of the common mindset of all Americans, is that sky's the limit. You can be anything you want. Anybody can be the president. All you got to do is work your ass off. And I think somewhere we got away from that. And I think that we kind of need to get back to that. And I think it would solve maybe a lot of our problems that we're having right now.
It's true. And I think people lament that whole everybody gets a trophy mindset. I think that part of it has taken away the understanding of the work. That's the flip side of that coin, though. You definitely need to start with that mindset and have that family support and everything else. But you also have to have a very, very good understanding of the work, because if you don't, whatever mindset you have is going to crumble very quickly when you find out how much work is involved in doing a thing, whatever that thing is. So I think you need both of those things in equal measure. You need that support. You need that mindset very early on, but you also need that work ethic. And I don't know that we have that in abundance these days either.
Yeah, I don't think so. Back to the everybody gets a trophy thing. I think that what was important at the beginning was that everybody understands that everybody deserves to play.
Yes.
And I think somehow that got twisted into everybody deserves to win. And that's just
right.
Not possible.
That's absolutely right.
I love it when you agree with me. It makes me feel smart. You wrote a book.
I did.
What's it called?
It's called Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt.
That is a great name. It's a long name, but it's a great name.
Thank you.
Why did you feel the need to write this book? What need did you see? What hole did you think needed to be filled by this book?
I was actually being asked for it, and I felt like I was shortchanging my students and leaving money on the table at the same time. So I have a workshop called Till Death Do You Tweet, and it teaches good digital citizenship to students, parents, and professionals. So there are 3 different versions of the workshop that I do, where I actually pre-COVID used to go into schools, and it would be like an assembly, and I'd talk to the kids about their choices on social media, the idea of themselves as a brand, and good and bad consequences that come with social media use around cyberbullying and sexting and all that. And then I would talk to the parents, help them understand what their kids were doing with their phones, try to give them some tools to help them come up with strategies for managing that digital use. And then for professionals, adults are not immune from getting fired because of a tweet. So, I would go into companies and talk to them about how to sort of better manage their digital presence as well. I still do it virtually now. It's actually been a pretty decent transition to the virtual space, but I've been doing that since 2012, really. I guess professionally, if you I had been doing it before that, but professionally since 2012, I've been speaking to young people about good digital citizenship through responsible social media use. And there wasn't a school I could walk out of without a principal or a teacher or some other administrator asking me, like, do you have any other resources that we could use to keep this conversation going? Because this was just so good, and the kids it just resonated with the kids, and we would love. Is there a book? Is there a is there a book? Was the question I was asked most often at the end of my presentations. So I was just like, there needs to be a book, clearly. So yeah, that was the impetus, and I wanted them to be able to have a resource that they could take with them and continue to reinforce those messages and those lessons. And then, like I said, again, it was like, why am I leaving this money on the table? Because it's obviously something that they're asking for. So that was it.
I'm glad that you brought up how we act on social media. I am in my mid-40s. And I am not immune. I thought I was, but
none of us are, Steve. None of us are.
I'll tell you a story. This is a true to life example. 2 weeks ago, I was on Twitter. Part of social media is being social. And so I try to respond and communicate with listeners or followers or whoever, right? And one of the people that I follow, they sort of ask a question of the day. A couple of them do that, just sort of, they just throw something out there just to, be social. And the question of the day was, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? I thought I was being funny.
Oh, goodness.
What I said was, and I know this was bad, everybody, so I already got my knuckles slapped, so everybody relax. What I said was that I would tell myself, my 18-year-old self, kill yourself.
Oh.
Because it's gonna get a lot rougher, right?
Right.
I immediately got put on the suspension. Like, they just shut down my Twitter for 24 hours and sent me a thing that said, you can't say that because you're promoting self-harm. Now, these were new rules, I guess, new policies. According to the message they sent me, new policies put in place as are the result of some things that happened on January 6th in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so just that little, what I thought was innocent, funny, that I would, give myself some advice to just give up or whatever. I'm sure I phrased it wrong, but I did get put on a Twitter suspension for 24 hours. So it happens to everybody, and I am no different. So I think that what you're doing is very important. And do you have a website that offers some sort of information about that?
I do. It's tilldeathdoyoutweet.com.
What might somebody find there?
They would find information about the presentation, about, what it entails. There's information and link to buy the book. There's some swag if you're interested, t-shirts and sweatshirts and merch.
What did the t-shirts and sweatshirts say? What did they say?
I have a logo. I should have worn one of my t-shirts, actually. I'm not sure why I didn't, but I have a logo for Till Death Do You Tweet that's on the front of all of the
okay, cool
stuff. Yeah. There's actually, you can sign up to get a real quick digital resource sheet with some tips and some things to think about as you're navigating your digital life. There's a little bit of information there for folks that want to learn how to become better digital citizens.
Nice. I like it. I know that being a tech guru such as yourself, you are using and introducing and being introduced to technology all the time.
All the time.
What is the purpose of technology? At its rudimentary, what is the purpose of technology?
I honestly believe it is here to make our lives easier. It doesn't always do that, unfortunately, because technology is still created by people. So you get people's motives thrown into why it gets created. But I think it is supposed to be a tool to make our lives easier, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. Being able to call an Uber instead of having to wait for a cab, or being able to order through Grubhub and get food delivered to your doorstep, or, having this device that is a camera and a video recorder and a computer and an MP3 player and a radio and this all in the palm of your hand. It's all there to make our lives a little bit easier. I
agree. That's what technology is supposed to do.
Right.
We can go all the way back. We could probably go further back, but let's go back to just, I don't know, like the 50s. All right. So in the 50s, specifically, women were caretakers of the house and the children, and they cooked and all that. That was sort of their role, if you will, back in the 50s. And then Betty Crocker came along and said, you know what? I'll sell you this box for $1 that has a whole cake in it. All you got to do is add the wet stuff. So then that made things a little bit easier. Then GE said, you know what? You shouldn't be spending all that time washing dishes. I made a machine that washes your dishes for you. How much time is that going to save? And then there's a laundry machine that washes your clothes, so you don't got to be out there scrubbing with that weird thing that that rednecks play in their band. The washboard, that's it. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Technology Expert, but every step of the way where we have invented some new technology, the purpose was to free up your time so that you could go do other things that you wanted to do, things that you needed to do, things that would enrich your lives or the lives of others. And I think that we as humans have, every single step of the way, we have found a way to fill in that extra time with more work. And, speeding all the way back up to, the phone that you held up, now your boss can reach you at 4:00 in the morning. It doesn't matter where you are. You're never really not working or not available. You're always on call. Oh, and also every step of the way in technology, people have been put out of business. My wife and I were watching this TV show on Netflix a few months back. It was called Madam C.J. Walker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who that is?
Yes, of course, the first Black female millionaire.
Good job. So, like, her original job was a laundress. She would go to people's houses and take their clothes and take them to her house and wash them and then bring them back. Or sometimes she would wash them at the people's house, whatever. So her job was to wash other people's clothes.
Right.
So then her, as an example, we invented a laundry machine, and then now she's out of work, in theory, right? So people like her would be out of work. And I think that every step of the way, we're making people unemployed, and then they're having to find some other, and that's great because it spins off creativity and ingenuity and things like that. But I think that there's a delicate dance that we all take for granted with technology. It does free up our time so that we can fill it with some more work for some reason, but then also it leaves people unemployed. So there are good benefits and there are bad benefits. That's not a thing. That just sounds dumb, but you know what I mean? There's good things and bad things. And
Absolutely.
so do you, as a tech informationologist, I'm just making up words left and right. As a tech information disseminator, do you also address the negative things? Like, do you tell people to beware because now you got all this free
Absolutely.
time,
Oh my
you're gonna get in trouble?
Absolutely. If I think there is something, first of all, I am not a version 1.0 anything. I am more of a tech skeptic, I think, than most of the people I know. I'm not the person standing in line for the latest version of because the first version of something never works correctly. And I am very big on privacy. Around technology right now, specifically, like I don't own an Alexa, I don't have any sort of connected.
Keep your voice down. I have 11 Alexas and she can hear you.
See, I'm really, and granted, we've already given away all of our goods the second we touch a keyboard anyway, but I'm still very conscious of the idea that, I don't need to order eggs through my refrigerator, and I don't need all of those Internet of Things devices in our houses that are connected to the internet that do make everything more convenient for us. And I sort of evangelize around issues of privacy, especially data usage with social media platforms. Right now, a lot of folks are doing that then and now challenge that you're seeing all over Facebook, where they're posting their baby picture and then they're posting the picture of themselves. Today, there's a lot of speculation around whether or not that data is being captured for facial recognition systems that go up across the country and around the world. I'm a staunch opposer to all of that DNA, 23andMe, Ancestry, all of that. So no, because those folks are giving your information to insurance companies, health insurance companies. 23andMe is actually about to go public any day now, and they're merging with a company that is going to, I'm very, very leery of things first. Now I'll watch, I'll study, I'll observe, if it does seem like something that's going to integrate into our lives in a way that will make our lives easier. Great. Let's talk about it. But I'm very much a wait and see kind of person. And I take a wait and see approach to most technology. And like I said, when it comes to data and privacy, forget about it.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
You know those popping phone handle things that you see on everyone's phones nowadays? Well, how would you like to put your logo on them? Does your podcast or band need new merch? Do you want to bring attention to your new book or film? Maybe you need something unique for your Patreon or crowdfunding campaign. Then visit thelogopop.com, where you can customize them with the logo of your podcast, band, business, art, school mascot, or whatever else you can think of. These are way more affordable than you may think at thelogopop.com. Mention where you heard this ad and get free shipping on your entire order. Remember, that's thelogopop.com to order your custom popping phone handles. That's thelogopop.com.
Let's get back into it.
Let's just say, for example, Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. Twitter is free. Twitter doesn't cost anybody anything, but somehow
it does, though.
Well, it doesn't cost
anybody any money.
It doesn't cost anybody any money, but somehow Twitter is worth billions of dollars. And so that means that if there's not a product that they're selling you, then they're selling you as a product to somebody else.
Amen. That is exactly right. And that's what we need to understand. And, and I think that is where the government would have to step in or just the consumer in general, just, demand better control over your own data. That's the thing. And I don't know how that works. And I don't know, what sort of model that looks like, but there has to be a better way to run these platforms.
I agree. I'm starting to get depressed about this. So let's move on to something else. You occasionally do a little video or whatever about a new tech product or gadget, right?
Mm-hmm. My 60-second tech break. Yeah.
Where can people find that? And is it called a 60-second tech break?
It is. It's the 60-second tech break. Folks' attention spans are not long these days.
What were we talking about?
Exactly. Because, I know how I get when I watch YouTube videos. If you don't grab me right in that first 30, 45 seconds, I'm usually going to turn it off. Unless I'm using it as a way to learn how to do something. I need to, learn how to do this. So I have to watch this video to learn how to do it. If I'm just watching videos for entertainment value, I'm probably not going to watch a 7-minute video or a 10-minute video. And, my own attention span is just not that long. So I wanted to be able to, number one, produce content because, that's just what influencers and content creators do, but also just to give people a very easily digestible piece of information that they could watch, learn something from, and then go do that thing. I'm always very mindful of the information being relevant and actionable because, who just wants to watch something just for watching's sake? You want to be able, and that's actually the tagline for the 60-second tech break is watch, learn, do, because you can spend a minute, learning about some website you hadn't heard of or a gadget you never thought you needed, and then learn something about it. And it makes your life easier. Literally, it's funny. One of my first tech breaks was for an app called Keyring Rewards. And it is, back in the day when you had all those little plastic reward, and some people still carry those little plastic reward cards that you go into grocery stores to get the discount and things like that. This app will actually let you scan them all and have them on your phone. So then you only have to carry your phone around. So just little stuff like that. And it's stuff that I do and I use. It's always something that I might have had a question about. And, there has to be an easier way to do this. I know there's a gadget that does this. I know there's an app that handles this. So I just put it out there for everybody else to enjoy and consume and hopefully make their lives a little bit easier.
What's the most recent actual gadget or piece of tech that you did a little 60-second clip on?
It's funny. I wasn't expecting it to do so well. It actually went not viral necessarily, but viral for the number of followers I have. And I do the 60-second tech break across multiple platforms. So you can find it on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I usually drop them on Wednesdays. So the most recent one from this past Wednesday was for an Instagram feed called Influencer Pay Gap. What this woman did was she created an Instagram feed, Adesua Ajayi is her name.
How do you spell that?
It's a tongue twister, but she created an Instagram feed that allows people to see what other influencers are making and how they're going about pitching brands. Because, influencer is a thing now, however we choose to feel about that and whether we like it or not, the idea of an influencer as a job is an actual occupation that young people especially aspire to be, and that if you grow your brand enough that you can actually do for a living. So, but it's very, very difficult to find information about how much you should be getting paid for creating this content for this brand and what you should be asking for and what your usage rights are. And the fact that, creators of color get paid less money than white creators and that whole thing. So she takes anonymous DMs from people who are in the business that talk about, how much they got paid, what they asked for, what they were able to get, if the brand didn't treat them so well, that whole thing. So, information is power, knowledge is power. And I appreciate the fact that she's putting it out there like that. That was the tech break. And it really resonated with a lot of folks, apparently, because that got a fair amount of views and comments and likes and shares and saves and all that good stuff, good engagement on that post.
So it's not always a product
Yeah, it can be a website. It can be a social media feed. It can be a gadget. It can be pretty much anything in that space. It can be a recommendation on like, hey, here's how you turn this privacy setting on to make sure that you're protecting your data on this platform, or here's what you should be thinking about as you're, navigating this particular platform or something like that. So it's just sort of general tech knowledge for the average person, if you will.
Ooh, I love that you put the tech knowledge in technology. That's awesome.
Look at that.
But it's always something that is a useful tip. You don't typically go, hey, this thing sucks. Don't use this.
I don't do negative reviews. I mean, if it was something that was potentially harmful to people, I would put that out there like, hey, just got word that the latest battery. And I think I remember when Samsung kept having those exploding batteries in their phones back in the day a few years ago. I did talk about that. So if it's something that has the potential to harm somebody, I would definitely put that out there. But I'm not really in the business of negative reviews just for negative reviews' sake.
That makes sense. And I like it because there's enough negativity in the world.
Yeah, it's like there's no need to be contrary. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I'm not going to put all that work into something just to tell people, it sucks. I mean, it helps you in a sense that you don't spend your money and buy it for a product that's not worth it. But I don't think it ultimately helps society, really, honestly.
I agree. 100%. How did 2020 and all of its various shenanigans affect your ability to do your job? I mean, I know that some of your job is, remote or socially distanced, as it were, but some of it's not. So how did 2020 affect you and your career?
It was tough. Unfortunately, a tech segment on a nationally syndicated morning show is the icing and not the cake. So as programming was dominated by COVID information and COVID news and the latest press conference from so-and-so and whatever, a lot of what I do really got pushed to the back burner. So it was greatly diminished, I think, by pandemic. So I didn't do a ton of television last year. I mean, there was always that segment around, how do we get our video conferencing together and what's the best webcam to buy? And, there was a rush in that time frame when everybody was trying to get set up to work from home and to do distance learning and things like that. But after that sort of died down and everybody settled on what sort of setup they were going to have, it really did slow down considerably. It's still been that way into the new year. So it's been tough. It's been tough to find things to pitch people and things that they would find relevant and ways. I mean, I had my whole show get canceled actually because, I was the tech contributor for Strahan, Sarah, and Kiki. And that show went away because it came on in the midday at 1 p.m. and they started using that hour when the pandemic started for all of the press conferences. So whatever the president had to say, that would be first. And then if your local health department and your local politicians wanted to have a press conference, that usually happened right after that. So all of that was happening. They were doing them daily. So all of that was happening in that 1 p.m. hour. And once that was over, ABC would fill it with more COVID information. And once things started kind of, it hasn't died down at all, but once we weren't doing those daily press conferences anymore, they still decided that it was important to continue to provide COVID information as opposed to, the latest recipe from so-and-so and the latest celebrity interview from so-and-so, which is what my show did. And then, towards the end of the year, they just decided not to bring that show back at all. So the midday show is now called GMA3, What You Need to Know. It's still heavily COVID information based, but they've started adding, a little bit more of the daytime fluff, if you will, back in there. So I've been able to do a few things. I did some stuff for Christmas, best gadgets for Christmas and things like that. And it'll pick up. But, it's been a challenge. Definitely been a challenge.
What are your plans for 2021 as far as, keeping your brand going?
I am working on a potential podcast. Speaking of podcasts, fingers crossed on that one. I am just continuing, my own content creation to keep myself out there. And the speaking part of it has picked up actually quite a bit. So That You Tweet is better than ever, really, and the interest in the book and things like that. So, you work on what you can work on in the meantime. And when the TV stuff comes back, I'll be ready to go.
Nice. Once again, King, what's the name of the book?
The book is Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt.
And it's available everywhere and your website?
Available on Amazon, on my website. That's the best place to get it. Where
can people find you on social media?
I am all around the web at Tech Life Steph, TechLifeSteph, Tech Life Steph.
Gotcha. Oh, real quick, can you explain? There's a little, I think it's called an applet. It's called If This Then That.
Mm-hmm. It automates some things you do on your phone through different apps. It automates different apps and connects them together. So think about when you share a picture from Instagram to Twitter. If you don't have If This Then That enabled, it'll share it. But when you look at it on Twitter, it'll be a link to your Instagram account. So you basically have to go back to your Instagram account. And typically people don't do that. I don't do that. I don't want to see it that bad that I'm going to leave the platform that I'm on to go see the picture on a different platform. If This Then That would automate it so that you would see the picture in line on Twitter if you shared it from Instagram. But it's not just that. It's so many different things. There are Alexa automations in there. If you want to order a pizza every time you get within 20 feet of your house, like the Domino's has an applet in there that you can automate pizza delivery with. So it's an automation tool that is super, super powerful because there's all different kinds of things you can automate. So if you use like a program called Evernote is where you can make notes to yourself and save articles and pictures and things like that. So, there's automations for that. There's all different stuff. It's really cool. I use the one that sends the picture from Instagram to Twitter and make sure the picture is in there. So that's why I mentioned that one. I do use that one. But yeah, it's a great tool. If This Then That's awesome.
Where is that available? Where can people get that?
You can download it from the App Store, from either App Store, the App Store or the Google Play Store. And then they have a bunch of different templates that are already set up in there. So, if you're looking to do something, just search on that. Like, I always wondered if I can connect this so that I'll just have to press one button to get my coffee maker going in the morning before I get out of bed, just that different type of stuff. There's a lot of templates in there, or you can create your own applet for something that you might want to automate. So it's a software automation tool, and it's readily available on either app platform, and get in there and make your life a little bit easier. Again,
very cool. One of the things I hate, specifically, you mentioned, Twitter and Instagram. I'll be scrolling on Twitter, and then, like you said, I'll look at somebody's post and there's a link. So then I hit that link to go to the Instagram, and then it wants me to re-log into my Instagram. I'm like,
and ain't nobody got time for that.
And like you said, I don't do that. I just move on. And so every time, like, I hit that link and I'm like, and then it tells me I got to log in. I'm like, not worth it. I'm out.
Not worth it. I don't want to see the picture that bad. So yeah, If This Then That takes care of a lot of that type of just little annoying thing that you wish could be automated.
Very cool. As we're heading out, Stephanie, is there anything that I didn't ask you or we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about today?
I think we covered a lot. This was a great conversation. We ran the gamut.
We did, and I'm tired now. Once again, everybody, the book is called Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt. It's available on Amazon, and it's available on Stephanie's website. And the website is, one more time?
So deathdoyoutweet.com.
.com. And make sure you follow her on all her various social medias accounts. Just look for her. She already told you what she's called on all of them. I promise you're going to find some really cool information. Plus, you get to tune into those 60-second tech clip things. What are those called again?
The 60-second tech break.
There you go. The 60-second tech breaks. Well, Stephanie Humphrey, you are an amazing individual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic COVID-filled technology schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
Oh, and don't forget, you put the tech knowledge in technology. And I love that. I'll put that on a shirt.
I might have to use that, like technology.
That's right.
Out what that looks like, and as a saying or something, or
just break it up like a dictionary spelling
Seriously,
then put that on a shirt.
I may have to use that, Steve. I may have to use
Knock
that.
yourself out. I love it. Again, thank you so much, Stephanie, and you have a great rest of your weekend.
You do the same. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Streetwalkers, it's time for a giveaway. Thanks to our generous friends at Sylvania, we're going to give away some Bluetooth speakers. What do you think? These are fairly special and limited Fascination Street Podcast Edition, as they have a little Fascination Street emblem on the end. This oblong Bluetooth speaker is about 8 inches tall and about 3 inches in diameter, and is IPX4 waterproof. So how do you win? Well, what I need all of you to do is post a short video to your Instagram story, your Facebook story, or even your TikTok, telling everybody why you love Fascination Street Podcast and which is your favorite episode. Make sure to tag the show in these videos, and each week I'll pick one winner to win one of these special limited edition Sylvania Bluetooth speakers, and I'll mail it to you. And I might even throw a couple of other Fascination Street Pod swag in there as well. So tell a friend, tell all your friends, and include it in your stories on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. And don't forget to tag the show, Fascination Street Podcast. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.